We're going to go over the monthly report for Star Citizen, November and December. That is because I think they're just a little bit too busy around that November period to do the November monthly report in December. So instead they wait and they combine them both and then ship them to us in January. This one is late though. This one is about a week and a half to 2 weeks late, likely because of some of the movements they've had in teams and personnel over the last several months. You can't deny it. There's been a little bit of shakeup, so I think that some of these things are taking a little longer to come out. That's what the whispers and murmurs. But we're going to go over this today to kind of understand what the development was doing at the end of last year. This isn't necessarily going to tell us for sure what's coming in the next update. This is more of a kind of maybe, because if they're working in something in November, December, CIG, they'll get around to January, February, and their priorities will shift, and those things that they were working on will come out in a year. So we'll read into this a little bit. We'll assume that a lot of this is continued development and is looking more like a 4.1 kind of edition. There's probably a lot of 4.0 and 4.0.1 stuff in here, but none of it is guaranteed if we haven't seen it yet. As always, we're going to be starting out with AI. The AI teams, I think, give us the best look at how they formatted the company before, which was in tech teams, feature teams, and content teams separately. One of the big things that they're trying to do now is start to both branch these more so that they're working together, but also make sure that the content can be delivered separately from what the feature. Like the feature doesn't necessarily force them to, how do I put this? Them completing the feature doesn't force them to release the content. The AI team ended 2024 progressing with tasks for Alpha 4.0. This involved adding and validating social AI behaviors across the new stations and outposts to ensure NPCs are positioned and pathfind correctly through each space. This involved playing through various stations and discussing where it was or wasn't appropriate to place characters and what type of story is intended to be shown there. As many players noticed, dynamic conversations have started to appear in-game, which began with tech from Squadron 42. To improve the experience, a small capture session, I'm really struggling with my S's these days, was undertaken to enable new conversations specific to Pyro and Stanton. The team said, "This is definitely something we want to leverage more in the future, potentially even allowing us to reference in-game events." Bruh, just imagine if you're running through Lorville and you hear some NPC lean over to another NPC. Like, get a load of these guys sprinting through here. They're in their medical gowns. What's up with that, huh? Please, CIG? Please. I would love some references to how crazy we all look. Like, it's like, imagine if there was some kind of trigger that an NPC could have where they just had like an if-then statement. If player jumps within proximity of NPC says, "Get a load of this guy, won't stop jumping, huh?" I would love little nuggets like that. The team also looked back at Stanton's landing zones to upgrade their behaviors to the standard set in Pyro. For example, they tested population numbers to see how many NPCs could fit in a location without compromising performance. Though the numbers still aren't where they would like, particularly in the bustling metropolis of Area 18, it provides valuable insight as they begin to experiment with creating environments with denser populations. Man, I really want to know what we can push. That would be, because there's definitely, like, we all know in-game cities, and we've all seen what, like, all these different games want to do with in-game cities, and then we kind of get the reality, and it's like, well, this feels like a city, but it feels sort of like this feels more like an American city at 8 p.m. on a Thursday night instead of, like, I don't know, a European city on 8 p.m. on a Thursday night. Like, the cities still feel relatively dead, even when there are characters walking around. So I'm interested in seeing what they might be able to do to make the landing zones feel good, especially the cities. There have been some times when there's like a glitch and you'll get a ton of NPCs loaded in one place in a city, and for a second you're like, wow, I live in space. And then they glitch through the floor and stand on the table, and you're like, oh, never mind. AI features. So AI content is like the stuff we're going to see in the game, right? Dynamic conversations, the mission stuff they're talking about here, population density, that kind of stuff. The features are the people who are building the stuff that the content uses to build these things. So it kind of moves from the tech team here into the features team here, and then finally to the content team here. It's not always like that. Sometimes it just pops up somewhere random, but that's kind of how it's meant to work. In November and December, the AI feature team progressed with combat for Pyro, particularly for Alpha 4.0's contested zones. This led to improved server. Oh, wait, no, it was. Yeah, sorry guys. Our nice, great $500 camera that we got a year ago stopped working, so we have to use my phone as the camera. This led to improved server frame rate and stability. For example, ammo management spoofing is now functional in locations where ammo crates are yet to be balanced. As such, NPCs will reload, run out of ammo, and search for more from downed combatants to provide much-needed ebb and flow to the combat without needing to wait for a full looting rebalance. The AIs are definitely running better. I think everybody's noticed that. I've seen them try to help each other up once or twice. They're still not like running through all the actions very smoothly, but they are definitely better. Time was also put into polishing, reloading, and ammo management animations and behaviors to ensure they're ready for Alpha 4.0. AI features also improve the medic behavior that allows medpen-equipped NPCs to revive their squad mates, so that's what I've seen, providing an extra challenge to players. This also creates gameplay opportunities for allowing players to bait enemies into the open to heal their comrades. Dude, I can't even bait an NPC by shooting my gun in front of them. Like, let's hold on. let's give them the ability to perceive just like normal things. Then maybe they'll start using teamwork. Okay, the team also fixed issues when cover is compromised to ensure NPCs respond quickly when ambushed. Bugs in defend areas were fixed too, which are used to shape the flow of combat and set up areas where enemies wait in cover to ambush players. So we saw some of this. Where are my files? They showed this off at CitizenCon. Here we are. So Maelstrom is going to allow for destructible environments, destructible cover, the ability to reduce walls to rubble. And this will go for various, I don't know how widespread this is going to be in the game. This is a pretty crazy system to have in a game like Star Citizen. And it's one of those things that you're like, maybe you're reaching a little bit too far, but they're trying it. And this is essentially what they're talking about when they say NPCs will be able to respond to the cover moving. I think I have any other good shots of that? This one? Yeah. So you can see it here. How they're recovering to or responding to different types of cover. And then dynamic objects will be able to have cover associated with them even as they're moving. I find it funny because this is like, you can tell this Ursa is not actually rolling. It's just sliding across the ground. Like I don't even think it's moving straight. I'm pretty sure it's just going slightly sideways. Work was then done to simplify and refactor the investigate behavior, giving it additional fallback options and enabling it to work more sympathetically with the perception system. Be like, oh, come here, perception system. You're so cute. I'm sorry. Oh, it's okay. I'm sympathetic to you. This functionality is used to drive searching behaviors across groups when the AI has not fully perceived something or has lost its target. So they showed this off at the previous shit. Damn. I really did just start to say CitizenCon. Sorry. They showed this off last CitizenCon in their AI stuff. Or was that? No, that was more than last CitizenCon ago. That was the briefing room I'm thinking of, huh? Yeah, I think we go all the way back to the briefing room here. Yeah, this is 2022. And they were showing off kind of just how the AI would search for you. This is like, I don't think this is really that different from any other game. It was just showing that they got it working, I guess, in the engine. And then they kind of showed it working in the Squadron 42 environments, Just that like AI would dynamically be checking different ports that you could travel through and all that kind of stuff. Like it's good AI work. It's nothing groundbreaking, but that's, I think, what they're referencing here. Significant work was also done to ensure that perception, particularly vision, checks using client calculations are efficient and correctly distribute checks to characters present at different LODs. We've also seen perception just as recently as this CitizenCon. This is actually AI searching perception checks. This would be related to light. It would be related to what kind of enemy you're looking at. It would be related to what's in the way. So you can see he doesn't have perception over here because obviously there's stuff in the way. You can't really see that. Obviously there's stuff in the way, so it's red. He has no perception, right? It's green right here because he can see that well. Orange over here because he can barely see it. But as it gets darker, you see that like certain areas get much darker. So even in Twilight, and this is just like Splinter Cell 101 to me. Obviously, this is a very common kind of thing in space games, but I am excited for this particularly because we have so much ability to choose the direction and the light that you're encountering when you run a mission. Like anything that you do in Star Citizen, you can decide if you want it to be nighttime, if you want to come in from a ground vehicle, from an air vehicle, if you want to crouch walk in, sneak in, if you come in from one direction or another. It's fun to finally have something to push me to think about my approach to missions. So I'm glad to see this stuff coming in. Again, not groundbreaking, but good basic quality material that makes a game experience better, which is what players are definitely and have been looking for a while. And Star Citizen is just not really offered fully to a lot of different types of players. All right, in addition, AI features worked alongside animation to introduce a new creature to the universe, the Kazi Grazer. That's the little cow. We've been working on this for some time, they said, and we're so happy to see the positive reaction from players to our bovine friend. Work also progressed on animation stances, which are used by the Kazi Grazers when sleeping and grazing. What? They graze? What? These are particularly relevant to the day-night sleep cycle. A new charge attack type was also introduced. They can attack. Oh. I still haven't seen one in real life. I think I flew past one, but haven't seen one, cow-touched. AI on the tech side. We're almost getting to the exciting parts, folks. Just taking our sweet old time. AI tech spent the last 2 months making performance improvements to AI systems and progressing with new features. They began by enabling dynamic cover generation for planets and some locations chosen by the designers. This is part of the tech presented at CitizenCon, the stuff we just watched. They also implemented a new exporter for dynamic cover generated as part of a location's object container. For dynamic cover, fixes were made when reusing cover locations after a navigation tile regenerates without NPCs. The amount and types of glitches that we're going to see from this whole dynamic cover system, either not loading in or loading in too late, and the way NPCs, this is probably going to end up having NPCs standing on objects again for some reason or another. The StarScript design tool received numerous updates. This new tool inherits the logic from Apollo Subsumption and will be used by the designers to define and represent mission behaviors, NPC behaviors, and other design scenario scripts. It also has a modern UI and better functionality for debugging behaviors. I'm pretty sure this is it right here. I'm not sure why it's all the way down here. Yeah, so this is StarScript. This is, wow, is this what Apollo looks like now? All right, y'all know what time it is. Time for us to look up Apollo Subsumption again. We do it all the time. If you're new here, welcome to probably something we do, I'd say every month. We go into my file archive and look up what Subsumption is. Subsumption is the tool they use to build the logic for both AI and for missions. So very fancy if-then flow graphs with a whole bunch of other details thrown in there. The first versions of it we saw back in 2018 looked like this. Obviously, pretty functional, maybe not the most pretty looking thing. But honestly, I don't think it's that bad. And this was, when was this? This was 2018, this was recorded. From there, we moved forward a little bit to 2023. And you can see it's like kind of the same, mostly. It's still the general same setup, slightly cleaner interface, version 1.0.92, or 1.092, sorry. And then I guess now it's looking like this. I don't know if this is actually, it does specifically say StarScript, so this might not be the same tool, but it might also be the same tool. I can't know for sure. But you can tell that their UI interface is from their perspective. Because remember, they have developers making UI for them and UI for us. Like, we want good UI, but they also need good UI to make a good game. And you can tell it's getting better over time. Took a little while though. For Boyd's tech, crashes were solved and the volume of synchronized data used between the server and client was optimized. For scripting reasons, new functionality to easily convert conversation behavior into a flow graph node was implemented. Updates were made to audio propagation and how NPCs perceive audio events too. Ship AI behaviors received a lot of attention, including improvements to quantum travel to better handle failures and updates to reinforcement behaviors and collision avoidance logic. Hearing that NPCs will start to quantum travel, any possible sign that... Oh, I'm sorry. You thought, no. This tool, this isn't tracking development. This is an internal CIG tool that they use to build missions in AI logic. No, so when I was talking about tracking development, I was talking about the monthly reports. Any sign that AI might start flying around on their own in space and traveling and doing stuff is like one of the best things I can think of to find in these monthly reports. That feeling of having a population in Star Citizen that functions correctly is, I think, make one of the biggest differences to the game. Think about it. What are our biggest problems in Star Citizen? I don't think AAK is in the chat, but if he were here, he would say there's not enough beacons. Okay? Somebody else in chat is going to say there's not enough people to fight against. There's not enough combat missions. Somebody else is going to say I keep getting killed by other players. They keep on griefing me all the time. Besides bugs, obviously. Bugs are a big problem. Everywhere you look, people have problems with the fact that there's just not enough... There's not enough of a lifeblood. If there were NPCs flying around cargo ships, a lot of pirates would not be so obsessed with just going and murdering players for no reason. A lot of players would want to do more missions because missions would have more people involved and be more fun to do. A lot of players would go out to outposts because there are more folks in the outposts that might have, I don't know, at least those people could be assigned to shops or giving missions of some sort. I feel like the population in the game is hurting a lot of different parts of the game, but the population also has to function, so they can't just place a bunch of people. They got to do things. Finally, the team began implementing movement requests for chasing targets. This will include updates to how Pathfinder requests are solved and patch existing paths. Okay, so we're not out of AI. We still have the AI game intelligence development team. These guys are kind of doing like R&D for AI in Star Citizen. Throughout November and December, the game intelligence development team continued to close down StarScript 1.1, updating the old Apollo documentation to the new UX and adding documentation to the new features. So that kind of confirms what we were saying before. They also defined a QA testing process to detect and address crashes and bugs as early as possible. A cheat sheet was then produced to highlight the difference between Subsumption Apollo and StarScript. That makes it sound like, I think Apollo is legacy. I think they're getting rid of Apollo, and StarScript is the name for the new software. They probably said that in a previous monthly report, I'm just forgetting. This sounds to me like they are completely retiring this software, right? This Subsumption software that they were using all the way up until version 1.092 back in 2023. To now StarScript version, what did they say? 1.1. Yeah. So I guess maybe StarScript 1.1 is Subsumption or Apollo 1.1. Following this, the game designers began using StarScript 1.1 and made requests for features and visual additions. The navigation graph was implemented for StarScript 1.5 alongside a selection of icons to represent key elements such as the event system, external system, and sub-activity selector. This is this is actually very encouraging. This is I think a bit of a sleeper top hit on not even just this monthly report, but just general Star Citizen progression. This is alongside things like the mission refactor for me, because the better anybody work at a company that makes their own software or puts like a wrapper maybe on like some SAP software, and then you have to go in and you got to learn the documentation for it. And if you have a problem, you have to go through your company's IT to get it fixed and all that kind of stuff. Like if you work at a big company or even a small company, a lot of startups get their custom software built. And if you work with that, you know how big a problem that can be for the productivity of a company. And I think one of the things that has hurt this company a lot over the years has been the fact that their tools are very haphazard. CryEngine being the base is not the best choice for a game like this, from what I've heard. I've not stuck my fingers into it. I don't actually know, but it's not the best for a game like this, and they've had to do a lot to change it around to make it work. And we're seeing that with like the mission refactor, with the transit refactor, the 64-bit precision thing, server meshing, all that kind of stuff. And I think some of the scripting software and the things used for AI is part of that. We've heard that Rastar has been challenging for them. We know that they needed Mighty Bridge to use things like Houdini instead of using their own tools. And obviously, as you can see, they've had this software that, sure, it worked, but probably was missing a lot of features they needed, which you can see they're now talking about adding in this version. So I think them getting the software that they're using to build the missions and AI and stuff that we're going to perceive in the game is even better than them getting UI ready for us. It's one of those gifts that keep on giving. These people finish their job. You got dozens of other people around the company who can suddenly start doing theirs much better. Were the Elliot mission making videos Star Script? That was Apollo. So that was here. This is what you were looking at there. And as you can see up here in the top corner, it is Subsumption version 1.092. So again, I think this is the Apollo subsumption system, and they have now, what is the freaking word? Dilapidated? No, that's not it. They've done the thing. They've retired this and turned it into Starscript 1.1. What are they doing on the animation front? November saw the animation team create player interaction animations for hacking and door panels. Don't with me, CIG. Why? Don't talk about hacking. They hurt me when they talk about hacking, man. It's like hacking is like new age salvage. And if you've been around for a little while, you know what I mean. I hate it. They also worked on various creature animations for the Copion, the Kazi Grazer, and the Valakar. The freaking sandworm. I hope they make a snow version of that. And they prepped for upcoming creatures. The devs then undertook several performance capture shoots before solving the data and facial animations. The end of the year was spent developing various animations for existing and upcoming creatures, while facial animation continued to create animations from the captured performances. So we've got a few creatures coming to the game. Kazi Grazer, yes, we know about that. Copion, we know about that. Valakar, we know about that. But they also are working on other upcoming creatures. So I do think that we've probably got at least, I would assume there are at least 2, likely or possibly 3 new creatures. And I say that because, so we've got the Valakar, right? This is, I think this is probably coming this year. Okay, this might not be coming this year, but I do think that monster hunting likely will. 12 to 18 months, they said, so maybe it slips into 2026. But I think even if the Valakar isn't in the game, I think the idea of this, finding creatures, taking their resources, and then using those and whatever crafting they do come up with will be a thing. So if we jump forward a little bit from here, we can see that they also have plenty of plans for other types of creatures.
Grew in a swamp environment instead of a desert planet. Or if a Valakar never made
Will the new creatures have the ability to fall through the planet? Probably, dude.
These are the kind of questions that make sci-fi one of the best mediums. And I can hear the questions already. What does an adult cave Valakar look like? What does an apex quasi-grazer look like? Well, it's these questions that get everyone excited that works on creatures to give you a glimpse into the big picture. All of these variances and differences and new creatures make
maybe
up
in
what we
5
call
years.
our fauna matrix.
Why in 5 years?
The fauna matrix is basically our creature encyclopedia. So these concepts should show you that we want to get more wild creatures have been defined for the.
Okay, so they've got quite a few creatures that they want to do for 1.0. But we've been following this pretty closely here at Space Tomato Gaming, as we do, because we're freaking weirdos and we're obsessed. Let's go to the channel and go back to our video from the beginning of last year, where we looked at alien species. These creatures are expected. Shut up. So one of the big reasons that we knew this was coming up was towards the end of the video here, when the animation team had gotten started on the first interactable animal. This was likely the quasi-grazer, as just recently in January of 2024, we received an update that another animal was being worked on, which was a four-legged predator, probably not the grazer. It actually isn't far from this. Like this isn't the Copion. Obviously, it's freaking huge compared to a human, but I could see how this might have turned into the Copion. Now, this could be any number of concepts and is joined by a bird and a fish as well. Not sure if these are boids, or it could be our old bird friend we looked at earlier. Also recently in November, we were made aware that CIG was looking. This is why we knew this was going to start happening. A year and a half ago or so, this position went up at CIG. They were looking for a senior AI designer who was specifically looking at things that have to do with behavior trees and ecosystem. Looking for a talented individual who could completely own the creature pipeline and put the work in behind launching these assets in the game. And that's something that we've seen in other parts of the game, weapons, vehicles, ships. They like to get people who can like fully get, I mean, this is probably pretty normal. You get somebody who really knows one part of that game, and then they can reach out to other people to have them help create that stuff. So we knew in the end of 2023, they were setting up their creatures pipeline. And that's why we are now starting to see creatures come in. And they are now starting to talk a little bit more about regular creature development coming into the game.
Each of our planets feels.
And then we see at CitizenCon when they show us kind of what their plans are. I think this might be one that we see this year. It's the pyro crab. But they got some plans. So there's your creature deep dive for the day, I guess. Let's move on to art in the character section. Character art team supported Starware art debt and fixed bugs for the live releases. They're currently working on 2 new armors alongside upcoming armor variants. I'm kind of tired of hearing about armors. The ship art team spent the end of 2024 putting the finishing touches on upcoming vehicles that will be revealed or released this year. Alongside unannounced vehicles, several upcoming vehicles progressed through the white and gray box stages. Okay, you guys ready? Here we go. The Consolidated Outland Pioneer, the Drake Ironclad, the Anvil Paladin, the Misk Starlancer TAC, the Argo CSV, and the RSI Apollo and Perseus. And I gotta say, folks, not a single one of those ships misses. Those are all very interesting things to be seeing coming into the game and being worked on. I don't think we're gonna see the Pioneer come out. We already went over that earlier this week. But I think all of the rest of these very much could come out this year. The only one I would be cautious of holding out expectations for would be the Ironclad. Starjump thinks the Perseus could be the Invictus sheep. Starjump thinks Perseus could be the Invictus ship, and Ironclad could be the Drake defense con ship. I don't know. I think that's a little ambitious, but I do think we could see all of this stuff this year. It'd be cool. Community stuff, core gameplay. This is the exciting part. The teams were heavily involved in addressing stability and performance issues found during Alpha 4.0 PTU. Alongside this, the programmers worked on jump points, which are critical to connecting Stanton with Pyro and later other systems. A lot of effort went into creating a strong visual experience and the feeling of controlling the spaceship inside the tunnel. We know that. When it first came out, the ships were hard to control. The new mission system received the final critical changes to prepare it for the new server-meshed environment. This overhaul is important to ensure missions persist as players cross between server boundaries, on server crash recovery, and between different servers. As the system was completely overhauled and most of the scripting logic rules changed, all mission archetypes need to be rewritten. A lot of teams supported the transition and setup of this content by helping locate and identify problems. I want to be super clear here, and might even clip this out as like a short. The mission refactor was one of the most crucial things this game needed, because how many of my friends out here have ran 5 different missions and only completed 0 of them? Or you completed a mission and didn't get paid for it. Or you completed the mission but couldn't turn the box in. Or you completed the mission but the mission objective just never went away. So many different problems from missions over the years that they have waited to fix, because if they did the mission refactor before, they would have had to then done this refactor again to the new mission refactor in order to make it ready for server meshing. So instead, they made us suffer through terrible missions for years so that they only had to refactor once. But now they need to refactor. Like the mission's still taking a while. So now I would really like it if they did work, please. But yeah, that's the mission refactor, and they've done that with quite a few things, I think. And it's been one of the pain points of the game, because then everybody's sitting around like, why aren't you fixing these very obvious problems? I will say this. This is not unsimilar to what happened when we went from 2.6 to 3.0. Way back in 2017, when they dropped 3.0, we actually lost a lot of the missions that existed then. You may have over the time since then heard about the famous Tessa Bannister. She was a mission giver in the pre-3.0 era who basically gave out exploration-focused missions. People loved them. They were all voice acted. They were pretty good. And they disappeared with 3.0, along with several of their missions during that time. So I was totally expecting that we might lose some stuff for 4.0. I'm sure it'll come back at some point, but this was par for the course. As the number of territories or regions served by one dedicated server increased, more features were found to have issues with authority transfer. Unique problems caused by ownership of the entity moved from one server to another. These issues proved challenging to address. But the benefits of more territories made it worth the time investment, can confirm. The teams were also heavily involved in new content, including contested zones, and took the opportunity to begin changing things to the PU, making changes to the PU login flow, including allowing players to spawn directly into their persistent hangars at their home locations. Okay, on my video released yesterday, I did say that I thought the hangar spawn was a temporary thing. The more I think about it though, and the more I think about what they're kind of hoping to do, I am wondering if at some point they're going to just make the landing zones similar to how the star system spawn works, in that you can pick which star system you want, and then you can pick which planet you want, and then you can pick which area in the landing zone you want. So you can pick Hab, Hangar, or maybe Commons. I actually think they might not go back from hangar spawns. Like, they might just leave that in and then continue to expand the ability to log in and log off in different places from there. And this is sort of just the beginning of that change that we didn't know was coming until last year. Let's see. The teams, okay, we got all that. Work was also done in support of an upcoming ship, fixing quality of life issues with the personal hangar and freight elevators, and a lot of bug fixing. Okay, core gameplay did not do much in November, December, but that's kind of par for the course. The end of 2024, this is the economy team. The end of 2024 saw the economy team adjust the prices of quantum and hydrogen fuel to account for new tank sizes. Prices of vehicle components and ordnance were rebalanced with the aim of turning the use of size 10 bombs into a serious financial decision. They're balancing the fuel tanks, the vehicle components, the ordnance. It's all good. Like, the economy's coming together. This is good news for us. but I don't. They still keep doing things like we still have the problems with the duping, and I don't know. I'm happy that the economy is coming into its own this year, but I'm wondering how effective it's going to be with the current state of the game. I think crafting is going to make a big difference to the economy. Okay, vehicle repair costs were also rebalanced, taking into account the new prices for components and commodities. For example, repairing a ship's hull should now be a lot cheaper than replacing missing components. Okay. Cool. That's probably pretty crucial for our own repair gameplay too. All right, graphics, VFX programming, and Planet Tech. For the graphics department, the end of 2024 largely involved making significant performance and stability improvements to Alpha 4.0. The team also finalized internal support for Vulkan and rolled it out as the default renderer for developers. This includes many stability improvements alongside multi-threading improvements to increase CPU performance on multi-core machines. This is what a lot of people have been waiting for. I'm not a wizard or a doctor, so I don't know just how much this will bring on the sort of multi-thread performance people have been hoping to see from Vulkan. Maybe it doesn't make a noticeable difference, but this, I believe, is the primary change that Vulkan was meant to bring on that people have been waiting for. So we'll see what happens. Don't know if this is going to be a 4.1 kind of edition, but they were finalizing internal support last year. So we'll see with the January monthly report what things are going on and what we might expect in March. But we could be seeing some nice optimizations in the next few months. These improvements are on the main branch, so they will reach the PU when the next major pull of the main code branch takes place. Okay. Could have just read a little further, so 4.1 confirmed. R&D for global illumination, reflections, and Planet Tech V5 all progressed and will continue at full pace now that the team's work on 4.0 is complete. So I'm guessing that means like weather, Starchitect, and then like the terrain and scattering stuff. Global illumination. Cool. Not anytime soon, I'm guessing. Interactables. The Interactables team developed assets for contested zones such as keycards, server blades, and fuse slots, and completed a performance and bug pass. Contested zones got a lot of work. The locations team spent the end of 2024 supporting the Alpha 4.0 build, including polishing, optimizing, and bug fixing Pyro's contested zones and outposts. Mission design. The ongoing mission refactor continued. Yes, we know. With bugs being prioritized and triaged. While analytics show high completion rates for missions, some users are still coming across issues. Yeah, shout out to my some users in chat, about 90% of you that have spoken up not completing missions. Maybe maybe the people who are completing missions are just being silent though. I'm completing some missions. Certainly not all of them, but I am getting completions. The team are currently attempting to reproduce and fix exactly what is causing them. Just make sure to turn on those reports for the bugs. All right, let's move on to narrative here. Over the past 2 months, the narrative team focused on developing or finishing mission content text for Alpha 4.0. The addition of Pyro meant that there were dozens of mission archetypes with different complexities and steps that needed to be applied to all mission providers in the system. Narrative also worked closely with the mission designers to support the Stave Stanton missions. Stave Stanton? Shave Stanton? We're shaving Stanton today. Outside of that, evergreen work continued, including generating names and descriptions for items, liveries, weapons, and armor. The team also planned storytelling and character initiatives beginning in the new year. They are pointing more and more towards wanting to deliver content in a narrative format. So while Save Stanton is mostly stuff we've seen before, applied to a different scenario, I do think that they're working on things to create Save Stanton-like content that actually introduces the new features we're seeing. From the narrative team on the website, the team released a fascinating portfolio on the history of Luminalia, which gave insight into the Banu culture and answered the community's questions from the Ask a Dev forum in Loremakers. Online technology in November and December finalized the back-end services crucial to several key features, including the mission system refactor, the entity subscription service and marker refactor, the scenario service, and the various social services updates. Each of these enhancements played a vital role in the overarching goal of making server meshing a reality. The team also devoted a considerable amount of time and resources to assist in unblocking accounts experiencing various issues. Furthermore, the team successfully released hotfixes to address these issues over the holidays. I feel so bad to see that like they did this work to do all this stuff, and that is what made it possible to get to the point where we are now, but the point we are now is still so riddled with bugs, problems, and unblocked accounts, or blocked accounts, that it's just, it's rough. R&D was working on the first version of dynamic weather. There you go, thunderstorms. The previously implemented weather map support was extended to also include a rain accumulation map with physically plausible evaporation and percolation modeling. Oh, that's good. This uses a plane's temperature, humidity, and wind map, which also drives terrain and biome generation, as input. Support for rain clustering was added to limit rain to specific regions and types of clouds. Oh, yeah, dude. Give me my cumulus clouds, my nimbostratus clouds with all the freaking rain and yes, I love it. Give me that good rain. I'm sorry. There's meteorological nerdery there for a little bit. You got to be happy for a rainstorm, especially when it could happen on R-Corp. I feel like R-Corp is not complete till we have rain in the game. And can I just give you a look at how long we've been waiting for this? This is where we first saw dynamic weather, folks. This will be 9 years ago this year. So, yeah. Sorry it's so quiet. They don't have great volume on their older videos, but you can see like the dynamic freaking storm sand cloud.
It's getting close. Okay, let's get out of here. Shit. Come on, hurry up, Vin. Go quick. Jump.
Really cool, super fun. Like, exciting for all those looking for survival gameplay on different types of planets, but I mean, this showed up, and then we got different types of weather for quite a while, but nothing anywhere near that. Nothing dynamic, nothing that kind of flowed across the terrain like that. And then you go to CitizenCon 2019, and you find a couple other examples of weather that they wanted to try and make a bigger deal than what we currently have in game.
To make these effects across all the kind of hundreds of planets that will eventually be created.
And, obviously you can see the effect of the winds on the vegetation.
Yeah.
So, and as you see here, we're in fog, you see the snow, our visor is getting, it's like you would be, in a snowstorm. If you're skiing or out there. Yeah. So we stashed the suit. We actually had a rover that we've stashed that goes in our carrack.
So
we're looking for right now.
One of the things before we go on too far, the other thing is with the armor.
So yeah, this was a show of the weather, and this is weather that we do have in game. So they were able to get this out, but it's not dynamic. It doesn't. You've experienced it. You'll just randomly run into a windstorm out of nowhere for no reason. Sometimes it will never leave. But there's not a rhyme or reason. You can't see a storm in the distance and be like, oh, we should probably leave. Or, oh, there's a storm, we have some cover, that kind of thing. That's what they're working on now, turning the weather that we already knew into something that's a little bit more logical. Similar controls were added for lightning, and the quality of lightning events extracted from the weather map was improved. The temporal stability of weather was improved, while diffusion in the rain accumulation maps was reduced. We also saw last year, if you guys remember when we were going over these monthly reports last year, they had a monthly report that mentioned that they made advancements in making sure that ship shields would react to lightning strikes. So this has been in the works for a little while. Volumetric cloud shadow rendering was stabilized to further improve occasional stepping artifacts when the camera moved, especially when the sun at low angles above the horizon. Additionally, various backend changes were implemented. This included introducing a dependency chain so that runtime generated cloud and weather maps, and their dependence can update lazily. Also, weather animation states now propagate to all systems and threads working with them. So related gameplay and physics effects should be consistent with rendering. Tech art and animation. The tech art and animation team continued with a range of long-term tasks to facilitate improvements across the board. For example, despite technical challenges, they made substantial progress towards finalizing several creatures, ensuring they're ready to be deployed across various planets. One of the team's major milestones was the successful integration of new heads into the character customizer. I completely butchered that transition to a new sentence. Sorry if that was confusing. This enhancement will offer players more variety and customization options, further enriching personalization. A contingent of the tech animation team is currently invested in the development and upkeep of player interactions. Most recently, this included the Fuse puzzles. This is Fuse. Is that how you spell Fuse? Oh yeah, it is. Which were trickier to implement than you might expect. That's why they got taken out, I think. Tech design. Throughout November and December, the tech design primarily focused on the contested zones. Support ranged from setting up new entities, implementing gameplay and reward logic, fixing doors, hooking up lights and sound effects, and playtesting and iterating on the above. They also set up entities for the CitizenCon digital goodies pack and identified and resolved small and large workflow issues for themselves and other teams. VFX. In November, VFX supported the vehicle teams with the Mirai Guardian and locations teams with a variety of pyro location work. December saw further work on pyro, including contested zones, rundown stations, asteroid bases, and the VFX heavy jump points. All right, so that's the monthly report for November, December. Now, not super incredibly exciting. And that's because, well, it's end of year. They were very focused on 4.0, IAE, and end-of-year tasks. So while some of this did show us what's coming next and what we can expect going forward, especially in terms of ships, like this is a good report on ships. Great, because I'm writing a video on upcoming ships right now. Some interesting economy stuff, but mostly stuff we already knew. A lot of this is stuff we already knew because it's in the game. So maybe not as much forward-looking stuff as I had hoped, but there are some nuggets in here. There's some AI changes, dynamic weather stuff, some creatures, ships, and mission updates. But we still don't know what they're focusing on gameplay-wise. This is like the really important paragraph here on the monthly report. If you want to read a monthly report, but you don't want to deal with going through this whole thing, you want that, like, what's the juiciest section? It's going to be this one almost every time. Core gameplay is where we get to kind of learn what we're going to be doing next. And unfortunately, they didn't really have anything here. They just talked about the new mission system, jump points, contested zones. Yeah, all things we already know about. But that's it.